The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Hello, everybody, and a happy hump day to you and all, whoever is tuning in, however you're tuning in. We appreciate you for doing so. I'm Ajay Salvesen for a one-year kickoff time on Wednesday, September 4th. We will gear you up as another episode of In the Know. It's our second edition of the 2019 football season. As we get you ready for the Stony Brook Seawolves from upstate New York. We'll be coming into town for a 5:30 kickoff Mountain Time. Make sure you get your tickets at UtahStateAggies.com or go to Utah State University to do so and come support the Utah State Aggies, who are currently 0-1 on the season after a heartbreaking loss at Wake Forest. Meanwhile, Stony Brook is 1-0 on the season after a dominating win at home versus Bryant. We're going to get to know Stony Brook in about every way, shape, and form. In fact, it's kind of interesting. When I was talking to Brian Miller, who, by the way, you'll hear an interview with Brian Miller. It was pre-recorded because Brian had some other things he had to get to later this evening, as they're in New York, so they're 2 hours ahead of schedule of us. So we had some other things he had to attend to. I was able to pick Brian's brain about Stony Brook in regards to their football team, offensively and defensively, their coach, and then Stony Brook in itself, where it's located, things to do there, especially for the athletes, and you'll probably like the answers. Might even persuade you to go visit Stony Brook sometime, high upstate New York, where the Seawolves are playing. They, by the way, and you'll hear it in the interview with Brian Miller, who is the assistant AD for communications. Great guy, really, really cool cat. Their attendance, they some of their highest attended games have occurred in the last 3 years. Their game against Bryant was the 9th most attended overall game in their school's football history. So, good stuff. They win 35-10 on last week, actually early in the week. I believe it's a Thursday night game, so they had a couple extra days to prep and prepare for the Utah State Aggies. Again, 5:30 p.m. kickoff time. Go and get your tickets at UtahStateAggies.com and go support the Utah State Aggies. We'll get you in the know in regard to the opponent. We also hear audio from not only Brian Miller, but from Coach Anderson, Jalen Warren, and David Woodward, and their thoughts on this Stony Brook team, who they are, and what they expect. There's some similar things that they see in Wake Forest that they think they'll see in Stony Brook. And watched, just a very, very small amount of highlights and film that you could see on them. I could see some similarities, and you'll find out what the similarities are coming up in the second hour. Eric Frandsen will be joining me. I don't know where he's at. He's off doing something with someone somewhere. He'll be joining me. I don't even think it's supposed to be Movie Quiz Wednesday. And if I'm a betting man, he didn't win. Or excuse me, he didn't prepare, not win. I was thinking a pick six, which, by the way, he didn't win that either. But he probably doesn't have a movie ready to go. That's me saying that, but that'd be if I was a betting man, that'd be my guess. A couple other things we want to hit on really quickly. I guess nationwide, around the worldwide of sports. Zeke on the $90 million extension. So this guy has been hanging out in Cabo San Lucas, or whatever that place is called, just kicking it. And the Cowboys were adamant that they wouldn't pay the money that Zeke is asking for. So Zeke's just hanging out and says, look, I can do this on my own. I can do it all day. I can do it all season if you want me to. Finally, the Cowboys oblige, and for good reason. It is Ezekiel Elliott, one of the best running backs in the league. Signs an extension, and you heard it at the top of the hour news update. 6 years, $90 million. 50 of that is guaranteed. $90 million extension. That includes $50 million guaranteed. That is ridiculous. And this just comes after Todd Gurley of the Rams became the highest paid running back with $45 million guaranteed and a $14.375 million average salary. Now, Zeke's 24, and his contract was going through 2020, and he was set to make the $3.853 million that was in his contract, and including a $9.9 million on the fifth-year option. His total compensation now through 2026, $100 million. So the first question is Zeke worth the money? Yes. Zeke is a top 5 running back. No, excuse me, top 3 running back in the league. Without Zeke, Dallas doesn't make the playoffs. With Zeke, Dallas is a Super Bowl contender. Not saying they'll win it, but that they'd be participating in the Super Bowl. That's how good Ezekiel Elliott is. But again, just amazing. And remember, this guy with a game this Sunday versus the Giants, this guy hasn't been working. I mean, or at least not with, professional football team, because he hasn't been with the Cowboys. Hasn't worked out with them, hasn't trained with them, hasn't practiced with them until now. I would guess that'd have an effect. I don't think it has that much of an impact, though. Pretty sure he'll be all right. But, man, huge news for Dallas. That, again, Zeke on a 6-year, $90 million extension that, again, includes $50 million guaranteed. There are overpaid players in the league, and there are certainly underpaid players in the league. Tom Brady is one of those guys. But the thing is it's crazy because when I look at it, I think Todd Gurley's overpaid. I don't think, in fact, it was kind of proven, even with the way, when you watch that Super Bowl unfold the way it did, I don't think Todd Gurley's worth that money. Zeke is definitely worth that money. I would say Todd Gurley is not. So good on the Cowboys for actually opening up the wallet, opening up their eyes and saying, yeah, you know what, maybe this will work for us. And it couldn't come at a better time either, just for the fact that, again, they have a game this Sunday versus the Giants. Here's Jason Garrett on where he sees. Actually, well, let's start with this. Jason Garrett on Ezekiel Elliott first coming back.
Yeah, obviously excited. Again, Zeke's been a big part of our team. He's so well respected by everybody in our organization. He's been a really important player for us. So it's great to get him back in here. I know they were working hard on it last night. I was in those conversations, and then this morning we woke up early and we found out the news and we got him in here, and he's had a good day so far.
And then here's Jason Garrett on talking about how he sees Ezekiel Elliott fitting into the system.
We anticipate him practicing, and we'll see how he does. He'll go through the dynamic warm-up in the individual, and then we'll see how he's responding. He's in very good shape. He looks good, but he hasn't been practicing with pro football players. So we'll just see how he fits back in. But he's a quick study. He's a smart guy. Got an excellent football IQ. So we'll just see where he is and adjust accordingly as we go.
And then finally, here's Jason Garrett on. So what do you do from here?
Yeah, just get back to work. He dove right in. Again, he was in the 7:30 meetings and taking part of everything this morning, and he'll practice today. So just get back to work, and we're excited to have him back.
That's head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Jason Garrett, on Ezekiel Elliott. Joining me right now is my good friend. In fact, he's the Mountain Crest Mustang play-by-play radio voice. You can hear him. Does an incredible job, by the way. Really, really good job.
I have a good teammate, and you're a great color guy. I have a lot of fun working with you.
When people say I'm a great color guy, I don't know how to take that metaphorically and literally.
Wait, what's the other way to say it? Because
I'm a great analyst.
You're that's true too. I would definitely give you that.
AJ Knight joins me. You can find AJ Knight on the AJ McCall Morning Show on 94.5 VFX, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. Again, he does great work there. He does great work with the Mount Crest Mustangs. AJ, you're a big football guy.
I am.
By the way, I'm sorry about your Purdue Boilermakers. That's a sorry one.
Hurts to see. I think a lot of Aggies fans and Boilermaker fans are kind of the same. I was talking to my brother about it, and you just have that attitude like, of course. Of course that's what happened. You've just seen it so many times.
Look at this Ezekiel situation. He's been gone in San Cabo Lucas, just hanging out, getting a nice tan, hitting the waters, hitting the surfing board, petting dolphins, whatever it is. Comes back because the Cowboys were like, look, it was almost like a staring contest. First one to blink, Cowboys blink, and they blink big because it's 6 years, $90 million with $50 million guaranteed. Your thoughts on the situation?
I'm kind of surprised that they caved because that means he signed for 8 years now. I think it's 8 and 103. I think is what it shakes out to about.
Yeah,
and for him, it's so tough because is he a top running back? Yes. Do running backs have a long shelf life? No. So I'm honestly surprised. I think the smart money would have been, I guess if he holds out, he holds out, but the smart money would have been said, nope, we're going to play a year 2, and then maybe we'll franchise you. And by then you're probably done, which is kind of heartless, but it's also probably the smartest business decision. I don't know. I get it. I think it's long-term not a great move.
Okay, who's more dramatic or whose situation was more drama? Ezekiel Elliott or Antonio Brown with the Raiders in his helmet?
Oh, totally Brown, because, the Cowboys one is because of Jerry Jones. Because if Jerry Jones doesn't talk to the media, it's just a lot of, well, what's going to happen? We're still not here.
Yeah.
I'm sure you mentioned it, but Antonio Brown, I just heard earlier today, got fines from the Raiders, got a letter, and then he posted on Instagram.
Yeah, the guy posted it on his Instagram account. So the letter is issued from Mike Maycock, and it's a fine.
Yeah.
The fine is, by the way, no chump change anyways. It's a $54,000 total in fines for missing time during training camp. So Antonio Brown, what does he do? Posts it on Instagram and then puts, when your own team want to hate, but there's no stopping me now. Devil is a lie. Everyone got to pay this year, so we clear. I don't speak ghetto, so I have no idea what that means.
I don't understand the level of delusion where you convince yourself, everybody's out to get me. Like, I have contributed nothing at all to the issues that I'm surrounded by. I can't wrap my head around that. It's the same thing with the Steelers. Like, I think he doesn't think he did anything wrong. Where, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of dirty hands in that. I think Mike Tomlin wasn't great. Big Ben wasn't great. But you're like, okay, Antonio Brown, really? Seriously, you don't think you did anything wrong? It's such a level of delusion I'll never understand.
He's actually now finally chosen a helmet that is approved by the NFL. It's in Zenith Shadow, is what it's called. I don't know what the big deal is, but I guess he's thrilled about the helmet.
I don't know.
So to say. It's just, man, you forget, well, this kind of stuff helps us remember why we love college football so much more, right? I mean, when's the last time you saw a football player sit out because he couldn't choose his helmet?
Yeah. I mean, I think coaches in college football now would argue the transfer portal is kind of a similar thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of old school coaches would say that's kids pouting.
Yeah, I'd agree. Even the transfer rule in high school, I'd put that in that kind of regard. When you don't get a start or get a play or you don't make the team, you transfer to another school just to be able to make the team or get to start. I think that's yeah.
I mean,
I can understand it.
I could see both sides of it, but it's so hard for me to preach school loyalty for a kid when the coaches don't have the same thing. Like, coaches don't have the loyalty either because they'll get up and leave for the next better job. And
sure.
And they're trying to audition. I think most coaches, except for maybe 10 or probably even less than that, are trying to find the better job. So the kids, you get 5 years. You get 5 years to make your impression to possibly play in the NFL. Obviously, if you're an undrafted free agent, you can make it. But if you're better, then you're going to get some more money up front. So I kind of get it, but yeah, I think it becomes more drama when the coaches make a big deal out of it. Like when the Clemson quarterback left, nobody said anything, and then the coach Dabo Swinney was like, "Yeah, he's not getting a championship ring," which I don't think is necessarily the wrong decision. But when you make a big deal of it, that's what makes the issue. It's like Jerry Jones with Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, there's drama, but Jones is doing all the public talking. So if he doesn't say as much, I think there's, you don't have the drama around it. It's just more speculation, but there's not a whole lot of noise.
But I feel like the pageantry of college football overshadows the drama of it. I mean,
I would agree.
Honestly,
with that.
I mean, like the colors, the crowd, the tailgating, the trash talk between rivals.
Oh no!
Now granted, we had to sit there for 3 months and listen to BYU and Utah yak at each other, and then turn around and start yelling at Utah State fans for absolutely no reason at all. But that's what makes the game so much fun. And I think with NFL, it's just, I don't know. It's almost, what's the word? I'm trying to look for this word and I can't find it. But it's an annoyance where it's used as, trash talk the NFL is, well, your guy's only getting paid $5 million more than this guy or whatever.
Bougie.
Like that's
bougie.
Yeah. I mean, really, but it's so lazy and it's so annoying.
No,
but in my college football, it's, hey, look, my team's better than your team because we got this guy, and there's no, and they can. And the great thing about fans is that they don't put the whole, well, at least not in Utah, the whole 5-star recruit into it. Now, maybe Alabama, Auburn, I think there's that, but not with in-state arguing.
As a Purdue fan, I can tell you that some of those schools will clutch on to history as long as possible. I agree with you because, like, as a Purdue fan, I can't stand Notre Dame and IU. As a Bears fan, I don't hate the Packers or Detroit or Minnesota. It's kind of I cheer for my team, and I'll probably say some things when I watch the game Thursday night, but there's a little bit more vitriol for college sports, so I totally agree with you. But, when it comes to those things, IU hasn't won anything in a really long time, but, man, that didn't stop them from making that argument anytime they talk to a Purdue fan.
By the way, I got to ask you, as upsetting as it is for you to lose that game, as a Mountain West Conference kid, I applaud Purdue and Missouri for going on the road playing at non-P5 schools. Yeah. I absolutely applaud that move. I know it's a tough loss to swallow, but as on the other side of it, we're saying thank you for actually being willing to throw the ego aside, leave it where it was, and to come play Nevada, or for Missouri to come play Wyoming. I think that is a huge amount of respect from Mountain West Conference fans to be able to say that.
I think for the smaller schools, the smaller Power 5 schools, it's I think it's twofold. I think you do it because obviously no one's going to agree to just do a one-off with you. You got to do the home and home. So Purdue and Nevada have a home and home. I think they play Nevada in 2 years. And on the other side, it makes sense because if you're Purdue, now you get seen in Nevada. I know they play TCU this year, who they have a home and home with. So you'll get to go to Texas, which is a big recruiting state for Purdue. So I think that's why. But I'm with you. As a program, it probably doesn't make sense to do. It would make sense to play the cupcakes and then play your conference schedule and let the chips fall where they lie. As a fan in general of college football, way better. So much better than watching, Maryland beat the crap out of Howard 79-0. Who wants to watch that?
Well, what's crazy is with that, because Purdue went and played Nevada. It's not a cupcake game, and I don't think Purdue took it as such either. I really don't. I think they understood how good Nevada was. They understood the trap game that it could be because it's on the road at Nevada. Yeah. Same thing for Missouri going to, actually, I think more Missouri and Wyoming was more Missouri thinking that's a cupcake game. We can go get an easy win.
I definitely think
start
so.
Start 1-0 and get ourselves on the right foot.
I think Purdue didn't in the first half. I think they took their foot off in the second half and thought, this is easy. We got this.
So
why did they let that one go?
What's more, as a SEC fan, which you aren't, but if you were, what would be more embarrassing loss? Tennessee to Georgia State? Really?
Tennessee's more story. Tennessee has more history. Tennessee was at home. Georgia State, in my opinion, is not as good as Wyoming. And that's the other thing, too. So, you as a Mountain West fan, I think, can attest. The smaller, like if you're out of the Power 5, and don't get me wrong, I think there's some great places. The Big Ten has a ton of some of the best home field advantages, but those places get rowdy. So Laramie was rocking for that game.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the, probably, no offense to the rest of Mountain West, it's probably the biggest opponent they're going to have in Laramie this season.
Actually, yeah. I would say that. Unless Boise State gets over there.
Up there then. Top two, top three.
No, I'd still put Missouri over Boise State. Though.
So, I mean, and that's really what I love when no disrespect, but the smaller places are so much, I think, more passionate. The bigger you get, like I can't imagine. So Alabama football, right? Crazy. And their basketball team was decent this year, but I bet every other program falls by the wayside. I don't feel like their fandom probably carries across. Whereas out here, I think with the less professional sports too, like Wyoming doesn't have a professional team. The closest one would have to be, Seattle? Maybe a Canadian football team. So the college, it just becomes some more passionate. I love it out here with the Aggies and Salt Lake, I think, has a little bit of it. Boise State, I think, has that kind of passion.
Look, and I've said it before about Wyoming. I said it numerous, and I mean ad nauseum in spades of how tough it is to win at Wyoming.
Yeah.
I said that going into that week. I said it after we won ugly. I told everybody that is a incredibly, for whatever reason, a very, very tough place to play, and that's a game where bounces could go wrong easily and turn that game into a rout where you were leading big.
Yeah.
And I think Missouri figured it out the hard way, and Utah State, found out how tough it is to win at Wyoming. They've known for a while. But that's just, and there's like that when you develop a theme to your stadium, such as Wyoming's is to theirs. Even Lavelle Edwards, one of the greatest coaches in college football history, when I had asked him, I said this story a couple of times at least, but one time I asked him off the air, I said, Coach, what's the toughest place you played at? And he looked at me and just gave me like this deadpan, are you stupid look? And he said, Laramie. I hate Laramie. and he gets a slight grin, but I mean, you could just tell how much that place. He told me a bunch of stories too, and like how grateful he was, and almost relieved more that they won the WAC championship in 1996 at Wyoming. He said that place was murder to have to go win a game at, and he says that night you didn't know if you were going to get out of there alive. So, I'm just saying, it just proves to the theme of
sure.
Those small schools, like you said, I loved what you said there. Those small schools can end up being really big traps for big teams to go and win at.
I totally agree. Hey, let me ask you, I know you and Eric got into this, obviously, after Labor Day with the game on Friday. So, with Utah State, obviously they got the conference, but I feel like Utah State and Purdue are kind of in the same boat. Purdue has Vanderbilt and TCU coming up. So that first game for I think a lot of Purdue fans felt like must win to get to 6. And I know Utah State well past it. They're definitely going to win 6. But how does the season fall? I know it's only one game, but I feel like we're both kind of with our fandoms in about the same spot because that first game I think was a big deal for is the season going to be like for Purdue? It was like, are we going to compete in the West or are we just going to go for 6-6? And I feel like for the Aggies, the game against Wake Forest was like, we're maybe going to run the table or 9-10 again. Am I wrong?
Well, no. Look, Utah State's lost how many of these P5 games, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't want to call it a tradition, but it's been a curse just the way we've lost him.
Fair.
I mean, Auburn, you had a 10-point lead with 2 minutes left, and that evaporates and you lose Auburn. You had the game against Wisconsin on a field goal, and you chunk it right, and it doesn't even come close. You lose that game. Last year against Michigan State, a 2-minute drive. Jordan Love at quarterback, you thought that, and they're at midfield at this point, and they lose that one on a pick.
We were following that one so close. I was up in the booth, I think, for a Green Canyon game during that one.
And then you have, of course you have, this Wake Forest game, and you're right. I think a lot of fans, and I can almost promise you that when the coaching staff and the players sat in film, the following morning, they looked at it and just probably wanted to throw chairs left and right at the wall, knowing how many opportunities they had to close that game and beat Wake Forest.
Yeah.
It is what it is, but I think then your mind snaps out of it because you got Stony Brook coming up on Saturday, and Stony Brook took care of, I know it's Bryant, and so you're like, well, who the crap is Bryant? But still, when you see Georgia State beat Tennessee, when you see Missouri lose at Wyoming, when you see Nevada pummel Purdue, lose to Purdue, or beat Purdue, excuse me, and when you see Boise State come back from a big deficit,
that game was crazy,
and shock Florida State, you look at this and you say, if we pout too long, 0-1's going to turn into a bigger hole, and it's going to affect us in conference. So you snap out of it, look at film, what do you got to correct, get ready for Stony Brook. You beat Stony Brook, you're 1-1 on the season with a bye and then 2 big conference games. One at San Diego State, where you haven't won since you've been in the Mountain West Conference. You're 0-12 there. Or excuse me, 0-11 there. All time at San Diego State, 0-11. And then you get Colorado State at home, who is looking and just salivating for revenge after you won on a technicality where a receiver stepped out of bounds, then caught a Hail Mary pass in the end zone. So they want that game back very, very badly. And so with all that in mind, I think Coach Anderson and his staff are going to do a great job flipping the kids' heads, saying, look, that was what I was last week. Here's this week. Here's Stony Brook. And then after you get that win, you're 1-1, you reset, find your footing, you're right back into it.
No, it's a good point. I
know that's a long answer, and I'm sorry.
No, you're right. I think it's a great answer. But they showed graphics Saturday night. I was watching Fresno. I watched the whole Fresno State USC game. Mountain West did really well. I think they beat one opponent. The conference as a whole beat one opponent, I think, from every other Power 5 conference. Because Missouri's SEC, Purdue's Big Ten, Hawaii beat Arizona in week 0. It's the Pac-12. Is there a Big 12 game? Somebody beat the Big 12? Boise beat Florida State. That's the ACC.
No.
Okay, so maybe not Big 12, but still. That's 4 of the 5 Power 5 conferences.
And actually, you know what? That's a good point. Speaking of which, San Diego State's head coach, where is this thing at? He actually got that. Someone asked him about, playing big schools coming to play small schools and the whole schedule of it all and the controversy of will big schools come and play little universities. Here's the head football coach, Rocky Long of San Diego State Aztecs, and his very stern answer on that question.
We had a team in our league beat a team from a Power 5, 4 of the 5 Power 5 conferences. And I hear about how we don't play anybody at home, and 2 of those teams are coming here to play. I mean, one of the teams in our league beat the ACC, they beat the Pac-12, they beat the Big Ten, they beat the SEC. Wyoming beat Missouri, and if I remember right, that says SEC. And they're coming here for a home game. And so is Nevada, who beat the Big Ten. So I guess our schedule has gotten a lot better than everybody seems to be thinking it is. And our league is a whole lot better than everybody thinks it is. So please don't tell me about the lack of playing home games against good opponents and the lack of good teams in our league. Now,
well, good morning to you, Rocky Long.
It makes a great point.
That's a great point.
San Diego State's at UCLA, I think, this Saturday.
Yep, this Saturday.
I think they could beat them, honestly. I don't think UCLA's very good.
And Fresno State's got Minnesota at home.
I bet on Fresno State to win that game.
I would too. I would absolutely take Fresno State.
There's no way. My argument, Fresno State should have beat USC, and Minnesota is not as good as USC. As a Big Ten fan, they are not as good as USC.
Really?
Not. USC's way more talented.
Well, they didn't play. I mean, look, they got by Fresno State by 8.
I think Fresno State's a decent team. That's what I think. I think Fresno State will beat Minnesota. I think Minnesota, they played a Dakota school that's not very good, and I think they got by about 14 at home. But he makes a great point, too, because I feel like, and Kirk Herbstreit's one of the biggest people that I think is a victim of, or a component of this is the big schools generally won't go to small schools. Why? Because it doesn't benefit you. If you lose, it's bad. You win, you were supposed to.
No, that's true.
And so then the little schools don't get the resume, and so they say, well, they're not as good. So then when like a Northern Illinois, and I know they get crushed by Florida State, or Western Michigan runs the table, Herbstreit, I think, is usually the first people that's on the bandwagon if they shouldn't have this spot. Well, they can only do what they can do, and he makes a great point because their strength of schedule should go up because Nevada beat Purdue, and Wyoming beat Missouri, so that should improve the Mountain West as a whole. The conference showed this week a pretty good conference.
Someone tweeted out here, BYU, and I know we're kind of shifting gears, but I really want to bring this up, though. BYU, he says, wouldn't walk into the Mountain West, and he's a Wyoming fan, and win 10 games. BYU wouldn't walk into the Mountain West Conference and win 10 games. Group of 5 versus Power 5 in Week 1, Mountain West was 4-3. American was 2-4, Sunbelt 1-4, Conference USA 0-3, Mid-American 0-5. Again, your wins for Mountain West, Wyoming over Missouri, SEC. Nevada over Purdue, Big Ten. Boise State over at Florida State, ACC. Ohio over Arizona, Pac-12. Very, very interesting. And then if you were to put BYU's schedule into a Mountain West Conference schedule, right? So bear with me here. Tell me if they win or lose these games, okay?
Okay.
Utah.
Loss.
UMass.
Win.
Central South Virginia State College.
I would hope if a school has more than 2 directions, it's a win.
At San Diego State.
Loss.
Colorado State at home.
I think it's a loss.
At Nevada.
I think they can win that one.
At Air Force.
Ooh. Oh boy. I think a win, man. That's tight. If they're at home, win. On the road, they might lose.
Fresno at home.
I think they lose.
At Wyoming.
Loss.
Boise at home.
Loss.
New Mexico at home.
Win.
I'm going to make sure I count this right so I don't give them too many road games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, so USU at home.
Loss. Obviously. Aggies over the Cougars, I'll tell you.
Okay, but wait, hold on. At home, though. At BYU, at Lavelle Edwards Stadium this year.
I think the Aggies will still beat them. I think it'll be ugly. That's what I mean. For Utah, it was ugly, and then I think the talent prevailed. For USU, might struggle a little bit more, but I think they're a better team. I don't think that's bowl eligible. I think I gave them about 4 or 5 wins.
Yeah, you said, let's see. So UMass is a win. South Virginia's a win. You said Nevada's a win?
Yeah.
Air Force is a win, you said?
On the road, that's a toss-up. Yeah.
4. Fresno's a loss at Wyoming.
Oh, definitely loss.
New Mexico's a win. That's 5.
That's 5.
Yep, that's
I
all
think
they
that was
get.
the last one, right? 5 and 7.
Yep, 5 and 7 is where you would have
I would agree.
Which, by the way, so that's funny you say that. Now, with that, you take their non-conference schedule, or at least their schedule this year, they are predicted to go 5 and 7.
Yeah.
It's just intriguing.
I think. So I'm from Indiana, right? I'm from the land of Notre Dame. Notre Dame's the glorious independent football school, though technically they signed the deal with the ACC, so they got to play 5 football games with them a year, and the rest of their sports get to be in the ACC. I don't understand in this. Notre Dame, I think, only gets to pull it off because they have the cachet. BYU, I think, not being part of a conference football-wise anymore is a huge mistake. Notre Dame can only pull it off because they have the history. BYU, at some point, I think, no offense, Cougar fans, probably had some of the history, but you have dropped like a rock. Conferences boost you up. They get you money. They give you more cachet. They give you help. They give you a good schedule. It usually is better opponents. They're going to help you recruiting. Because I think that's what it was. Once upon a time, I think BYU could out-recruit everybody here. Utah's in the Pac-12. They're not out-recruiting them. Aggies probably give them a run for their money right now. And now recruiting's so national, it doesn't matter where you're at. Good player here in Utah doesn't mean that he's just staying in Utah. USC's going to come calling. Boise's going to come calling. There's some other bigger schools that are going to find their way over here.
It's a good point.
I think it's a mistake for them not to be in a conference.
And I think based on the fact that they can't win a conference, like, look, they just lost to Utah, so now they're relegated to the Hawaii Bowl because they aren't going to beat. I don't think they beat Washington. I think they beat Tennessee and beat USC. I don't think they beat Washington though. So really, you're looking at a Hawaii Bowl already.
You have more faith in them than I do. Tennessee's a push. They're clearly bad. I don't know that they beat USC.
I don't think USC's that good. I mean, look, they're talented, but I still don't think they're good. I think they're poorly coached.
Oh, I would definitely not give Clay Helton a whole lot of credit. I just think they're not bad.
All right, we got to go to break. Coming back, AJ, can you stick around for a second? You got to go.
No, I can hang out.
I want to talk some high school football with you really quickly.
Let's do it.
You are the play-by-play guy for the Minor Crest Mustangs. Want to get your thoughts so far as we are 1 week away from region play.
Yeah.
Final week in the preseason here. We'll get your thoughts there. It's AJ Knight jumping in for Eric Frandsen because Eric is getting a Slurpee at 7-Eleven or something right now.
Pedicure, I think is what I heard.
It's all coming up on the Full Court Press. AJ Knight, I'm Ajay Salvesen. It's the AJ Show here on the Full Court Press.
The Fan.
AJ Knight, Ajay Salvesen here on the Full Court Press. It's a hump day, Wednesday, September 4th. Utah State Aggies will host Stony Brook in their home opener, Saturday, 5:30 p.m. We'll get you in the know on the Stony Brook Seawolves coming up at 5 p.m. I love Phil Collins.
Oh, who doesn't? I just want the Genesis reunion, the original Genesis.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yes,
Do you
sir.
remember that song "End of the Innocence" by Don Henley? You cannot find that song anywhere.
Huh.
It's not on YouTube. Nothing.
Wonder why.
I can't find that
That's kind of
song.
surprising. I just assume nowadays I can find basically anything on the internet.
Eric Frandsen's going to be here sometime at some point during the show, but for now, I'll take AJ. In fact, I'll take AJ today and any day, twice on Sunday. No, I love Eric. AJ Knight, your play-by-play voice for the Mountain Crest Mustangs Regional 11 football. Again, if you want to look at those games, go to CashValleyDaily.com.
Yes.
Find the streams for those games or find where those games can be found. By the way, Stevie Pick'em, you're our Cache Valley Weekly Pick'em.
Yes.
Every week we do it. New prize, new
How
winners.
are you doing on that, by the way? I'm terrible. I have not done well.
Good, not great. I'm
Okay.
11th overall. Right
Follow Ajay then, because I think I've been miserable.
Yeah, you've been struggling.
Yeah.
Which, hey, happens to the best of us.
Yeah,
Don't take
yeah.
it too personal. Mountain Crest Mustangs, by the way, have been poor, not good. And as they start the season 0-3. In fact, they've only scored in double digits once. That was last week. They fell short to Box Elder.
Yeah.
21-15. When you look at the first 3 games for the Mountain Crest Mustangs, what stands out to you?
I think the first week, you and I were both, because of course you're my analyst, my color guy on Mountain Crest as well. First game, both sides of the ball didn't play well. It was really surprising for the defense. The second game, I thought the defense played a lot better. They just kind of broke at the end. And then last game, I think that one, you write the story that Mountain Crest was the better team basically all night, but you can't turn the ball over 4 times.
Yeah.
Because they threw 3 interceptions and lost a fumble, and Box Elder lost a fumble, and that's the turnover margin. You can't do that.
And 2 of those turnovers were on the plus side of the field.
Yeah.
One of those turnovers was in the red zone.
Yeah, the fumble was
You're staring I think it's
You
like
can't
the
do
20-yard
that.
line. Okay, so then expand it now. You look at the Region 12 as a whole. Bear River is trying to get out of a rut. They lose to Bonneville last week, 23-17. Bonneville will be at Mountain Crest this week.
Yeah.
Green Canyon's undefeated. They beat Stansbury last week pretty handedly. They're 3-0. Go ahead.
I was to say I think so. Bear River and Mountain Crest, I think, are about the same spot, kind of inconsistent. I think Bear River had that really impressive showing against Juan Diego, and then Box Elder came in and thumped them. But I think them and Mountain Crest kind of the same spot. Green Canyon, I think a lot of people expect them to be good. Ridgeline's had lost last week to Farmington. That had me scratching my head, specifically because they got shut out. Because they were putting up points. You've phrased it the best the whole season, is that you predicted our first broadcast that Ridgeline was going to score a lot of points. So to get shut out last week was a little bit of a shocker to me.
But that proves to you, and I've talked to some people in Salt Lake, they think that Farmington team is going to make an appearance in a state championship. State semifinals for sure, maybe a state championship. That's how good that Farmington team was, and they proved it against a very high-scoring Ridgeline team.
Based on what I've seen from Ridgeline this early in the season, that would be a big feather in your cap to not only beat them, but to shut them out.
How about Logan last week, or just dominating Preston? Is
Yeah.
Logan real, or are they finally getting out of their struggles, or was that just a fluke?
I would like to believe that Preston's a pretty decent team, so I think that was a big win for them. Maybe I think for them, maybe it's just figuring a couple things out, because they lost a ton of offensive talent. So maybe they started to figure out a couple things, and now you're seeing them show, okay, this is what works for us.
Do you see any of these teams, Green Canyon, Bear River, Ridgeline, Mountain Crest, Logan, Skyview, making a run at a state championship with the way this 4A class is set up?
Man, so Green Canyon obviously has a big advantage early because they're undefeated. So that helps them with the new RPI system. That if you've missed it, Ajay has broken it down and explained it very well every time we've gotten on the air for Mountain Crest. I like Green Canyon from what I saw last year. We'll see. They really struggled in region last year. Ridgeline, I think anytime you could score points like that would make it interesting, but Logan obviously last year could put up points and then lost, what was it? Like it was first 1 to 100 in their playoff game last year. And then I've seen Mason Falslev, quarterback for Skyview in person, and I know they didn't win last year, but anytime you got that kid on the field, you got a shot.
Yeah.
He is. I feel like I've seen NFL talent twice for high school football, and he's one of them. I know he's going to play basketball, but I think he can play on Sundays.
That's good stuff. Really quickly, we're going to go to another break here. I got to ask you this question. Actually, we'll ask that question next break. I've got, because you're a betting kind of guy.
I am.
You are. And I want to ask you if you take the over or under on this, because Yeah, we'll get to it in just a moment. AJ Knight, I'm Ajay Salvesen. We're talking high school football here really quickly. Last thing, CV Pick'em. Go to cvpick'em.com and put your picks in weekly. Compete against Eric Frandsen, myself, and AJ Knight. And see if you can best us. Right now, everybody's besting AJ.
Oh, big time. I'm bad right now. I tell everybody when they play, like, I'm listed as an expert, but I wouldn't trust my picks. Maybe even pick the opposite of what I picked.
You can go to 1069thefan.com as well and be able to participate. You get a weekly prize. If you win, it's a pretty cool thing. Grand prize, 65-inch, 4K TV, courtesy of Lynn's Audio and Video. Get some. All right, coming back, I've got a betting question for you. I'm kind of interested in if you take the over or under on this. I know high school hasn't been treating you so well, but this might help you out.
Looking forward to it.
AJ Knight, Ajay Salvesen, Full Court Press, 1069 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
The Aggies are number one here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Ajay Salvesen, that's me. AJ Knight, that's him. Ajay here covering the first hour of the Full Court Press because Eric went off and got himself, I don't know where he's at. He says he's on his way.
Spicy nuggets, maybe?
Yeah, I hope he brings me back some nachos.
What is the best sports, like fall season, what's the best food to get in the concession stand? Hot dog, nachos, what are you feeling?
I'm a big hamburger fan.
Yeah, okay. I can respect that.
I love going to high school games and just getting me a hamburger. I love it.
Soft pretzels.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Just a thought.
Dude.
You're always at the games earlier than me, so I figured you'd be a good person.
I know, and then at halftime I'm like starving. I'm like, AJ, go grab me something. You got 2 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna be back. AJ Knight joining with me. You can listen to AJ Knight on the 94.5 VFX morning show with McCall Taylor, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. They do a fantastical job. And by the way, AJ's your play-by-play guy for the Mountain Crest Mustangs. He also does an incredible job at that. Yeah. He's also a great bettor. He's also very knowledgeable in the game of betting in the sports.
I did pretty good, actually, I think.
So let me ask you something.
Okay.
The Utah Utes are favored by 28 against Northern Illinois. Okay? Northern Illinois, 28 points.
Okay. 4 touchdowns.
Do you take the over... Or sorry, now it's been moved to 23. Sorry. It was 28 to start.
That's a big move.
Been moved down to 23. Now, are you taking the over or under? Are you taking, I guess, the Utah to cover the spread?
Oh, boy. So, on principle, normally, if a spread is that big, I'll take the under. I got to see here real fast who Northern Illinois played last week. Because you only obviously have 1 week. While I'm contemplating this, I didn't take it because I still think they cover it. So New Mexico State, right, is an opponent that Aggie fans are somewhat familiar with.
Yes.
They're at Alabama this week. The starting spread for that was minus 54. I still didn't take it. Because I really want to be like, okay, once you're up like 38, you call off the dogs, right? But I'm like, they dropped 50 on Duke this week. And I think New Mexico State went up to Washington State last week and got beat like 54-7. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to take that one.
So while you're looking here, I'll even help you out here.
They beat Illinois State 24-10.
Okay.
Illinois State actually, I think, is still run by a Purdue alum. Brock's back, I think is his name. Defensive coordinator for Purdue for a long time.
Covering by 23?
Gosh, that's still a lot. So if I was betting, I would not bet on this one, but I think they will.
Okay.
I don't think they stop Moss.
So Northern Illinois has a tendency to go get wins that they're not even supposed to be in a game.
Right.
Well, I'm going to read you a list. Watch. This may change your mind, may not. 1983, Kansas at Kansas, they win 37-34. 88 at Wisconsin, they win 19-17. 89 at Kansas State, they win 37-20. Then 3 straight wins versus Kansas State, Wake Forest, and Maryland in 90, 02, and 03. And then this will take you back in time. At Alabama, they won in 03, 19-16.
Really?
Then at home, they beat Iowa State in 03. So in 03, they had wins against Maryland, Alabama, and Iowa State. In 2009, I hate to bring this up, they beat Purdue at Purdue 28-20. Then they beat Minnesota in 2010, 34-23. And then home against Kansas, but anybody was beating Kansas, even a high school team, 30-23 in 2012. And then in 13, twice, 14, 17, and 18, they beat, on the road, Iowa, Purdue again, 55-24.
Oh, yeah, they set a record. It was the biggest, I think it was the biggest, or most amount of points Purdue's given up to a non-Power 5 team. We have a lot of those. The headline for the Nevada game was Purdue needs to stop being the biggest blank blank, because it was like Nevada's biggest comeback, the longest field goal in Nevada history. We have a ton of those. It's not been good.
That was in 13. So in 13, they got Iowa on the road at Iowa, 30-27. Then went and shellacked Purdue, 55-24. In 14, they got Northwestern at Northwestern, 23-15. At Nebraska in 17, that was Bo Pelina's pretty much last hurrah. And then last year, at BYU, 7-6.
That was a great game. Man, they have Northern Illinois stolen a lot of people's money. They got paid to come there, and they weren't supposed to win, and they took it anyway.
Yeah, they took the money, took the win, and said, "Thank you very much. We're on our way."
Okay, that being said, I might take the under.
I'm thinking under. I think that there's just ways. I remember
That's a good point.
When Utah played Northern Illinois. I think this was like 3 years ago. I mean, it was ugly. They got the win, but it was by no means pretty.
You know, the funny thing is, so when Utah played BYU, I bet on that game. I bet on Utah to cover, and they did. But I was asking around because I'm not as familiar with the rivalry as a lot of people here, obviously. And the funny thing was, there was plenty of people who I think are technically BYU fans, but they said pick Utah because Utah has a chance to do something special for the state this year. So it was kind of interesting to hear people say they wanted to get on board behind Utah in general because they want to see them make the run that a lot of analysts think they could do. They could win the Pac-12. They could potentially get in the playoffs.
If they can run the table, and again, they got kind of a semi-brutal schedule here. I'm looking at it right now, actually, as we speak. They got Northern Illinois this Saturday, and then they got Idaho State next week, and then it's conference, which includes dates at USC, Washington State at home, at Oregon State, Arizona State at home, Cal at home, at Washington on November 2nd. That might be your deciding factor there. UCLA is at Utah in November, and then they're at Arizona, which has been always a tricky place for Utah, and then they got Colorado at home to close it off.
The good thing for them is the South is not great.
Yeah.
But that Washington one's a big one. They also need help, too, because Oregon losing already, because a lot of people are down on the Pac-12, so Oregon losing to Auburn, especially in the way they didn't help. But they need a good opponent to meet them from the north, whether it's Washington or Oregon. Or Washington State, who I think is 23, 22 in the first poll.
Uh-huh.
They need a good opponent there. I tell you, I was listening to you guys last week, and you brought up the coach. Is this his last season if he doesn't deliver? And I think, was it you mentioned Harbaugh in that discussion too, right?
I did, yes.
I am on board with your train of thought. I don't think they'll fire him, but if they do not win the Big Ten, Michigan has never played in the Big Ten championship game. They've never played in it.
They've never beaten Ohio State since he's been there. Is that right?
Yeah. So I don't think they'll fire him because the grass isn't always greener.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't win this year, they ain't doing it.
It's AJ 9. I'm Ajay Salvesen. We'll close up the first hour here. Eric Frandsen will be available, maybe. For the second hour, we'll get you in the know on the Stony Brook Seawolves. You're listening to the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
It's a cruel summer.
AJ Knight, Ajay Salvesen, the AJ Full Court Press Show. Eric Frandsen might be back. By the way, your mic's not on, Eric, so don't even try anything scandalous. Don't even try it. I know what you're thinking. You're looking at me and you're giving me that look. We're going to wrap it up here for the first hour. Now, coming up in the second hour, you got your In the Know. I'm on the air, you fetch.
Sorry I'm late.
What? We actually are looking for a new co-host because
score.
Eric's gonna be busy. It looks like the rest of his life. I don't know. This whole you showing up at 5 o'clock is just not gonna work for me.
That was a new time.
Eric Frandsen is going to join me at 5 o'clock. We're going to get you in the know on Stony Brook Seawolves, including Brian Miller, the assistant athletic director of communications for mainly over football. He's going to give us a breakdown of what that football team looks like and what the campus is like and what the city is like and what athletes do when they go to New York City. You're going to be kind of surprised with the answers. You're going to like it.
I'd get in a lot of trouble, I'll tell you that.
Well, that's good. I'm going to let Stony Brook know not to recruit you for football.
That's fair.
Whatever they do not get AJ.
Point. I'm past my eligibility anyway, so it'd be just a wasted scholarship.
Well, and there's that like way past like your peak.
No, definitely. That was like 10 years ago.
AJ Knight, thank you so much for joining me.
That
was a blast. I'm glad you walked in. You walk in like, hey, you on the air? And I was like, no, I'm only doing a show on the full court press.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you and Jason Garrett were having a conversation about Zeke. That's my bad.
Oh, frick. You can find him on 94.5 VFX every morning, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Wait, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.?
It's a long shift.
I mean, you all feel like you're already here through that amount of time anyway. We'll see you for the second hour, everybody.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Now that the Ezekiel Elliott deal is done, the Cowboys can finally get to work. I don't know how big a distraction it's been in the locker room, but it would be nice not hearing about him in the media all the time. Like how good the Cowboys could be with Elliott in the fold. There was a reason owner Jerry Jones prioritized him over other key players. He has to win now, and Elliott is the key to that. Dallas has more pieces in place than it's had at any time since the Jimmy Johnson era. The offensive line is healthy and should dominate. They have depth at wide receiver and possibly the best linebacking duo in the NFL with Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch. Elliott makes everyone better, even the defense, because he keeps that unit off the field. We don't know if Elliott's return is enough to take the Cowboys over the top, certainly in a very difficult NFC East with the Eagles. But what we know for sure is Ezekiel Elliott is in the backfield, and that gives the Dallas Cowboys their best shot to win a championship in decades. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.